On Christmas Day, when the table glowed with holiday lights, my daughter poured a glass of wine over me right in front of the kids, relatives, and all the guests. Her anger exploded during the family toasts, destroying the pretense of a joyful celebration. But the surprise that crossed her face when I permanently cut her out of my will was just the start. I had no plans to stop there. It was already far too late. Before we go on, please subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are listening from. The wine glass shook in my hand as I stood at the head of the dinner table, preparing to give my toast. Christmas Eve, 2023. The turkey shone golden under the chandelier's glow, candles flickered softly, and my finest white dress shirt felt sharp against my skin. Perfect, just as Elizabeth would have liked. To family, I started lifting my glass toward my daughter Sophia, her husband Daniel, and their children, to remembering those we've lost and treasuring. Sophia's sharp laugh sliced through my words like shattering crystal. Stop this pretense. Her voice broke with 4 years of built-up fury. You deserve this. The red wine arched through the air in slow motion, reflecting the Christmas lights as it soared. Burgundy liquid splashed across my face, seeping into my collar, trickling down my chin onto the spotless tablecloth. The silence that followed was absolute. Olivia began sobbing. 7-year-old Ethan hid behind his father's chair. The Thompsons, our neighbors, froze with forks midway to their lips. Aunt Patricia dropped her napkin. I stood still, wine dripping steadily, my engineer's mind noting details, the warmth of the liquid, the splatter pattern on my shirt, the precise path from Sophia's seat. 38 years old, and my daughter had just doused me with wine at Christmas dinner. Sophia, stop, the children are watching, Daniel whispered. But his words held no real power. She wasn't done. Rising from her chair, Sophia's face contorted with bitterness that had simmered since Elizabeth's funeral. 4 years. Dad. 4 years I've pleaded for help with credit cards, and you buy them cheap plastic toys from the discount store. The Thompsons started collecting their coats with uncomfortable speed. We should probably... Mrs. Thompson muttered, avoiding eye contact. Those aren't cheap toys, I said softly, wiping wine from my chin. I picked each one thoughtfully cheap. Sophia's voice climbed higher. While you sit in this big house guarding Mom's life insurance money, your grandchildren get trash. Aunt Patricia tried to calm things. Sophia, dear, this isn't the moment or setting. When is the moment? Aunt Patricia, when he's gone and it's too late. Sophia snatched the gift I'd wrapped for Ethan, a model rocket kit I'd spent hours choosing. Look at this $15 rubbish while he's worth $750,000. Daniel pulled at her arm. Please, let's go home and discuss this right. But I was examining my daughter's face, seeing plainly for the first time in years the scheming behind her rage, how she'd shown up empty-handed but expected presents, how she'd faulted everything, the wine I'd selected, the plates I'd arranged, the meal I'd cooked alone. Olivia cried harder. Mommy, stop yelling at Grandpa. Your grandfather doesn't care about us, Sophia snapped, ripping open Ethan's present. See this rocket? This is what 50 years of being his daughter gets you. Scraps. The model rocket scattered across the floor in fragments. Ethan whimpered. I knelt to gather the broken pieces. My actions were intentional and composed. When I stood up, every eye in the room was on me. The wine stain spread across my chest like a chart of disloyalty. Thank you, Sophia, I said, my voice firm as stone. Thank you for revealing your true self. She hesitated briefly, maybe sensing something different in my voice. But then her drive pushed her onward. My true self, what about yours? Dad, the mourning widower act while you hoard every cent. She swept Olivia's gift off the table. These children deserve better than your miserliness. The neighbors had made it to the front door. I heard their car engine revving in the driveway. Daniel made one final try. Sophia, we should leave now. The kids are upset. But Sophia was reaching her peak, reciting every financial plea I'd turned down over the years. Each word felt like another splash of wine. But this time I was prepared. This time I was observing, absorbing, recalling. My engineer's mind started computing options. The credit card debt. Dad, $22,000 we asked you to help with last spring. Sophia paced behind the scattered gifts, wine glass still gripped in her shaking hand. And what did you say, learn to budget better? I remained by my chair, wine cooling on my skin, handling each charge with technical accuracy. Behind me, Aunt Patricia quietly guided Olivia and Ethan toward the living room. But their scared whispers still echoed. The roof repairs 3 years ago. $14,000. We practically begged. Sophia's voice broke with real feeling now, or a skilled imitation of it. You said the bank would offer better terms than family could. Daniel stood awkwardly between his wife and the door, car keys rattling in his anxious hands. We really should go. This isn't helping anything. Helping Sophia turned on him. Nothing gets helped because he sits in his fortress, tallying Mom's money while his own family struggles. The claim about Elizabeth's life insurance struck differently than the rest. I felt something change in my chest. Not hurt, but insight. Cold, logical insight. Your mother's life insurance, I repeated gradually. Paid for Olivia's medical bills when she was born. You know this. Some of it. What about the rest? Sophia waved wildly at our surroundings. This house, the updates, your treasured workshop in the basement. Meanwhile, Ethan needs tutoring. We can't afford. From the living room came Olivia's sniffles and Ethan's questions about why Mommy was mad at Grandpa. Aunt Patricia's soft replies couldn't hide their bewilderment. I moved to the fireplace, stepping over torn wrapping paper, wine marks tracing my path across the carpet. Each step felt calculated, purposeful. The tutoring you mentioned in October is, and you said I'd pay for it directly. I called 3 services and left messages with your school counselor. You never followed up. Sophia's drive wavered. That's not. We were waiting for the right program. Daniel cleared his throat. Maybe we were considering other choices first. Other choices. I turned from the fireplace, and something in my look made both of them retreat. Or other sources of money. The room grew silent, except for the grandfather clock's steady tick and the children's murmurs. Aunt Patricia appeared in the doorway, coat already on, Ethan's hand in hers. Kenneth, I'm taking the children home with me tonight, she declared firmly. This isn't suitable for them to see. Aunt Patricia, don't, Sophia began. No. Patricia's voice held command that startled everyone. You've shamed yourself and upset these little ones enough. Olivia, sweetie, get your coat. As my great-aunt helped the children collect their things, I watched Sophia's face shift through feelings. Rage, irritation, and something that might have been embarrassment, but not regret. Never regret. Fine. Sophia slammed her wine glass on the mantel. Take them. Let Grandpa explain why Christmas was ruined. Christmas was ruined. I said quietly. The moment you chose cruelty over gratitude. Daniel jingled his keys more urgently. Sophia, please, let's just go home and calm down. But I wasn't finished. 4 years of careful patience, of hoping she'd grow up, of forgiving her actions because she was grieving too. All of it formed into perfect comprehension. Daniel, take your wife home. I met his eyes straight on. And don't bring her back. Dad! Sophia's voice rose higher. You can't just... I am. I stood tall. Wine-stained but unshaken. You are no longer welcome in this house. You are no longer my daughter. The silence that followed felt different from before. Final. Sophia stared at me, mouth opening and closing without words. Daniel grabbed her arm, already heading toward the door. You'll regret this, she whispered. Then louder. You'll die alone in this house, counting your money, and no one will care. The front door slammed hard enough to shake the windows. Car doors banged shut. Tires squealed against the driveway pavement. I stood alone in my ruined dining room, surrounded by scattered gifts and shattered dreams, wine still dripping steadily onto Elizabeth's good carpet. The grandfather clock chimed 8. The echo of Sophia's departure lingered in the air like smoke. I surveyed the wreckage methodically. Overturned wine glasses, ripped wrapping paper, the model rocket scattered in pieces by the hearth. Christmas dinner sat cooling on the table, untouched plates beside disrupted place settings. I walked through each room with deliberate steps, documenting the destruction. In the living room, cushions lay askew where Ethan had hidden behind chairs. The kitchen counter bore wine splashes that had somehow traveled 12 feet from the dining room. Even the hallway walls showed burgundy spots. My engineer's training activated automatically. Assess the damage, gather evidence, formulate a plan. From my shirt pocket, I retrieved my phone and began photographing everything. The wine stain across my dress shirt, the broken gifts, the disturbed table setting. Each image time-stamped and precise. I narrated as I worked, recording voice memos with clinical detachment. December 24th, 8:45 p.m. Subject threw approximately 6 ounces of red wine across a distance of 10 feet, showing clear intent and premeditation. My voice sounded odd in the empty house. Destruction of gifts meant for minors. Public humiliation in presence of neighbors and extended family. In my study, I opened the wall safe behind Elizabeth's portrait. Inside, insurance documents, the will I drafted 4 years ago, investment statements, property deeds, everything Sophia assumed she knew about but had never actually seen. The will had been simple then, straightforward, naive. I spread the documents across my mahogany desk, turning on the banker's lamp that had belonged to my father. Numbers told stories if you knew how to read them. Asset values, account balances, insurance beneficiaries, a lifetime of careful planning, conservative investments, and methodical savings. Elizabeth's life insurance had indeed been substantial, but Sophia's accusations about hoarding were completely false. I pulled up my banking app, scrolling through 4 years of transactions. Olivia's medical bills paid in full. Ethan's daycare costs covered for 3 years. The roof repair Sophia mentioned, I transferred $14,000 to their account in April 2021. My phone buzzed. Text message from Sophia. Dad, I'm sorry about tonight, but you really hurt us by saying I'm not your daughter anymore. Can we talk tomorrow? No apology for the wine. No recognition of the children's trauma. No mention of the destroyed gifts or humiliated neighbors. Just manipulation, disguised as reconciliation. I screenshotted the message and added it to my evidence folder. Another text. Daniel says I should have handled it differently. But I'm under a lot of stress with money problems. Please don't stay mad. Still no genuine remorse. The pattern was clear now, documented and undeniable. I dialed my lawyer's office, knowing I'd reach voicemail after hours on Christmas Eve. Benjamin, this is Kenneth Harris. I need an urgent appointment as soon as possible after Christmas. The matter involves revising my will and cannot wait until the new year. Please call me back tonight, or first thing tomorrow morning. The house felt different now. Not empty, liberated. I removed my wine-stained shirt and walked upstairs to change, leaving the evidence bagged and labeled on my desk. In the mirror, I looked older somehow. Not defeated, but clarified, focused. Elizabeth's photograph watched from the dresser. I picked it up, studying her gentle smile, her kind eyes that had never seen Sophia's true nature. "I'm sorry, dear," I whispered to the frame. "I should have set boundaries years ago, but I'll fix this now." Back in my study, I pulled out a yellow legal pad and began making lists. Assets to protect, documentation to gather, legal strategies to research. My handwriting remained steady, methodical, purposeful. The phone rang at 10:15. Benjamin Cole calling back despite the late hour. "Kenneth, I got your message. Are you all right? You sound different." "I'm fine." "Benjamin, better than fine. Actually, how soon can we meet?" "Well, tomorrow's Christmas, but I could see you Thursday morning if it's truly urgent." "It is." I glanced at the evidence spread across my desk, at the photographs documenting Sophia's assault, at the text messages revealing her true priorities. "We need to discuss inheritance protection strategies. My daughter has shown her hand, and I intend to respond accordingly." "I see." Benjamin's tone grew professional. "Bring any relevant documentation. We'll review your options comprehensively." After hanging up, I sat back in my leather chair and surveyed the transformation. 6 hours ago, I'd been a lonely widower, hoping for family reconciliation. Now I was something else entirely. A man with purpose, armed with evidence, and absolutely clear about his objectives. The grandfather clock chimed 10:30. Outside, Christmas lights twinkled peacefully in neighbors' windows. Inside, I began planning Sophia's education and consequences. By morning, I would need Richard's counsel. Christmas morning arrived gray and quiet. I drove to downtown Riverside through empty streets, my folder of printed photographs and legal documents resting on the passenger seat. The Oakwood Diner glowed warm against the winter landscape, one of the few places open on the holiday. Richard was already waiting in our usual corner booth when I arrived, coffee steaming before him. 72 years of friendship had taught us to read each other's faces, and his expression shifted immediately when he saw mine. "Kenneth, you look like you haven't slept." He stood to embrace me, then gestured for me to sit. "What's wrong, Lisa?" Our regular waitress appeared with a second coffee mug. "Morning, Mr. Harris." "The usual breakfast. Just coffee for now." "Lisa, thank you." Once she'd retreated, I opened my folder methodically. Richard watched with growing concern as I arranged documents across the small table. "Christmas Eve didn't go as planned," I began, sliding my phone toward him. The first photograph showed my wine-stained dress shirt in stark detail. Richard's weathered face transformed as he scrolled through the images. "Sweet mother of..." He looked up sharply. "Sophia did this in front of the children, in front of neighbors." My voice remained steady, but Richard knew me well enough to hear the fury beneath. She threw wine directly in my face during my Christmas toast. 50 years of friendship, Kenneth, and I've never seen you this coldly determined. Richard set the phone down carefully. Tell me everything. I recounted the evening systematically. The build-up, the explosion, the accusations, the aftermath. Richard listened without interruption, his jaw tightening with each detail. Lisa returned to refill our cups, catching fragments, destroyed the children's gifts, and no genuine apology afterward. She lingered longer than necessary, clearly absorbed in our conversation. When I finished, Richard leaned back against the booth's worn leather. What's your next move? From my jacket. I produced a green marker and withdrew my current will. Richard watched in fascination as I methodically crossed out every mention of Sophia in the beneficiary sections. I meet with my lawyer tomorrow. I explained, continuing to mark through her name, complete disinheritance. What about Olivia and Ethan, their innocence in this mess? I'll establish a separate trust fund for them, accessible at 25, with behavioral conditions attached. I capped the marker with a sharp click, but only if they demonstrate genuine respect for family. Lisa approached again, ostensibly checking our table, but clearly eavesdropping. More coffee. Gentlemen, we're fine. Thank you, Richard replied, waiting until she moved away. He lowered his voice. You'll need an executor you can trust completely. I was hoping you'd accept that responsibility. Richard reached across the table, squeezing my shoulder with surprising strength. Of course, I will. It's about time someone taught that girl consequences. I pulled out my legal pad, writing Benjamin Cole's contact information. The lawyer suggested a video testament explaining my reasoning. Would you witness it? Absolutely. Richard studied the crossed-out will with grim satisfaction. You know, I always suspected she was trouble. Elizabeth was too kind to see it. Elizabeth believed in second chances and third chances and fourth. I gathered the documents back into their folder. I spent 4 years hoping Sophia would mature. Christmas Eve proved that was naive optimism. Lisa appeared again, this time bringing our check despite our barely touched coffee. You gentlemen have a wonderful holiday, she said with obvious curiosity, her gaze lingering on our paperwork. Outside the diner, Richard walked me to my car. The December air felt sharp and clean after the stuffiness inside. Call me after you meet with the lawyer, he said. I want to know every detail of the plan. I checked my watch. 11:30. The lawyer's office opened at 2. Actually, would you like to come along as potential executor? You should understand the legal framework. Wouldn't miss it. Richard grinned with unexpected fierceness. It's time your daughter learned that actions have consequences. Driving home through the quiet Christmas streets, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. The satisfaction of having a clear objective and the resources to achieve it. My phone buzzed with another text from Sophia. Dad, please don't stay angry. We can work this out. Still no real apology. Still no acknowledgement of the trauma she had inflicted on her own children. I deleted the message without responding. The elevator climbed steadily toward Benjamin Cole's 20th floor office, carrying Richard and me past the bustling commerce of downtown Los Angeles. Through the glass walls, the city sprawled in every direction, busy even on the day after Christmas. Benjamin's secretary, Linda, greeted us with professional warmth despite the holiday scheduling. Mr. Harris, Mr. Anderson, please go right in. Mr. Cole is reviewing your preliminary documents now. Benjamin stood behind his mahogany conference table. My folder of evidence spread before him like case exhibits. At 58, he possessed the careful precision of someone who'd handled too many family disputes. Kenneth, I've examined your photographs and timeline. He gestured toward chairs facing the document array. This level of documentation is impressive for someone without legal training. Engineering habits, I replied, settling across from him. When something breaks, you analyze the failure systematically. Richard took the chair beside me, studying the formal atmosphere with keen interest. Benjamin had arranged everything with courtroom precision. Evidence photos, text message printouts, witness statements from Aunt Patricia. Before we proceed, Benjamin continued, I need to stress that dramatic will changes often trigger legal challenges. Your daughter could claim undue influence, mental incompetence, or emotional coercion. That's why the documentation matters, I said. Every photograph is time-stamped. Every text message is preserved. The pattern of behavior is undeniable. Benjamin picked up a magnifying glass, examining the wine-stained photos with professional scrutiny. These images clearly show deliberate assault, combined with witness statements. They establish a solid foundation for behavioral exclusion. Behavioral exclusion, Richard asked. California law permits disinheritance based on demonstrable mistreatment of the testator, Benjamin explained. Physical assault, public humiliation, and ongoing financial manipulation all qualify as sufficient grounds. I leaned forward. What specific language do we need? Benjamin pulled out a yellow legal pad, sketching outline notes. We'll draft a comprehensive exclusion clause citing specific incidents with supporting documentation. The more detailed, the harder to challenge, and Richard's role as executor is essential. Benjamin turned to Richard. Are you prepared to defend this will against potential legal challenges? It could involve depositions, court appearances, and significant time commitment. Richard straightened in his chair. Kenneth's been my closest friend for 50 years. If his daughter wants a fight, she'll get one. Benjamin nodded approvingly. Good. Now, I recommend creating a video testament explaining your reasoning in your own words. Courts find personal testimony particularly compelling when challenging claims of mental incompetence. How detailed should it be? Extremely detailed. Explain the specific incidents, your emotional response, the impact on family relationships. Benjamin made additional notes. We'll film it here next week with Linda as witness. I withdrew my current will, showing Benjamin the green ink crossouts. How quickly can we finalize the changes? 2 weeks for complete documentation, including video component. Benjamin examined my markings with professional interest. I'll also recommend establishing that separate trust fund for your grandchildren, accessible at 25 with respect conditions. What kind of conditions? Written letters of understanding regarding family obligations, annual community service requirements, demonstrated financial responsibility. Benjamin's pen moved steadily across his legal pad. Essentially, they'll earn their inheritance through character development. Richard smiled grimly. That's beautifully designed. The children get security, but only if they don't follow their mother's example. Benjamin gathered the evidence materials into organized stacks. Kenneth, I'll draft preliminary documents by Friday. Review them carefully. Then we'll schedule the video testament for early next week. And if Sophia challenges the will, these photographs and text messages create powerful evidence of her true character. Benjamin replied, combined with your systematic documentation and video explanation, any challenge becomes very difficult to sustain. As we prepared to leave, Benjamin's expression grew more serious. One final point. Avoid any direct confrontation with your daughter during this process. If she approaches you seeking reconciliation, document everything, but don't engage emotionally. Actually, I said, I hope she does approach me. It would provide additional evidence of her manipulative patterns. Benjamin studied my face carefully. Just remember, everything you say or do from this point forward could become courtroom evidence. Stay methodical. Stay documented. Stay controlled. In the elevator descending toward street level, Richard chuckled with dark satisfaction. Your daughter has no idea what's coming. She will soon enough. I checked my watch. 4:30 p.m. Drive home with me. Richard, I want to show you something in my study. Outside, Los Angeles' winter afternoon was already darkening toward evening, but for the first time in years, I felt completely energized. The pieces were falling into place with engineering precision. My phone rang as we reached the parking garage. Sophia's number. I showed Richard the display, then answered with deliberate calm. Hello. Sophia. Dad. I'm so glad you answered. Daniel and I have been talking, and we really think we should meet in person to work things out properly. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. That might be possible, I replied, catching Richard's knowing look. When were you thinking could we come by tomorrow evening? Maybe around 6. I want to explain everything properly, without all the holiday stress. 6 tomorrow works fine. I ended the call and turned to Richard with calculated satisfaction. She's coming directly into the trap. Recording device already prepared. I felt the weight of strategic advantage settling around me like armor. By tomorrow night, I'll have everything I need to make her disinheritance absolutely unassailable. The morning after New Year's Day found me in my study, replaying Sophia's recorded apology for the 3rd time. Her emphasis on financial security for the grandchildren had been too deliberate, too calculated. Something nagged at my engineer's mind. A pattern I couldn't quite identify. I pulled up my online banking, methodically reviewing recent transactions, normal pension deposits, utility payments, grocery purchases, but buried in December's statements, I noticed something odd. Logan notifications from devices I didn't recognize at times when I'd been sleeping. Richard. It's Kenneth. I dialed my friend's number while staring at the suspicious activity. Can you meet me at First National this morning? I need to check something and I'd prefer a witness. Of course. What's wrong? Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. I'll explain when you get here. An hour later, we sat across from Thomas Reynolds, the branch manager who'd handled my accounts for 16 years. His usually cheerful demeanor grew serious as he pulled up my financial records. Kenneth, I need to show you something that's been concerning me. Thomas turned his monitor toward us. This credit line was established with your personal guarantee 3 years ago. I stared at the document displayed on his screen. $30,000 secured against my home equity with monthly payments automatically deducting from my checking account. My signature appeared at the bottom. Except it wasn't my signature. I never signed this document. My voice remained steady, but Richard leaned forward, studying the screen intently. Thomas pulled out a magnifying glass, comparing the signature to my actual signature on file. You're absolutely right. Look at the K in Kenneth. Your real signature has a distinctive loop here. This one doesn't. Richard whistled softly. She forged your name for $30,000. Apparently so. I photographed the document with my phone, ensuring the timestamp was visible. Thomas, what's the process for reporting this fraud? I'll need to file a formal report immediately. This document will be flagged, and we'll begin investigating all recent account activity. Thomas's fingers moved quickly across his keyboard. I'm also recommending we review every account where Sophia has any access. The next 4 hours revealed the systematic scope of my daughter's deception. Joint savings accounts I'd forgotten about, opened when she was 19. Credit cards where I'd been listed as a guarantor without my knowledge. Investment accounts where she'd been gradually transferring small amounts, always below the threshold that would trigger automatic notifications. The total exposure is approximately $55,000, Thomas announced after reviewing everything, all linked to forged documents or unauthorized account access. I sat back in the leather chair, processing the numbers with cold calculation. $55,000 stolen through systematic fraud over nearly 4 years. No wonder she'd been so desperate to secure her inheritance. She'd been living off my credit for years. Remove her from every account immediately, I instructed. Change every password, security question, and access code. I want Richard Anderson added as the sole alternate contact and beneficiary on everything. Thomas nodded grimly. I'll also need to report this to the police. Financial fraud of this magnitude requires criminal investigation. Do it. I stood, gathering the printed evidence into my folder. And Thomas, I want copies of every forged document, every unauthorized transaction, every suspicious login, everything. Of course. I'll have the complete package ready by tomorrow morning. Outside the bank, Richard shook his head in amazement. $55,000. Kenneth, she's been systematically robbing you blind. The recording from her apology visit makes perfect sense now, I replied, walking toward my car. She wasn't worried about our relationship. She was worried about losing access to my accounts. My phone rang as we reached the parking lot. Benjamin Cole, Kenneth. Perfect timing. How did the banking review go? Better than expected. Worse than I feared. I summarized the forgery discoveries while Richard listened from the passenger seat. We have documented proof of systematic financial fraud. Excellent. That strengthens our position considerably. Benjamin's voice carried professional satisfaction. Can you meet me tomorrow afternoon? I want to review everything before we finalize your new will. Absolutely. And Benjamin, I think we need to discuss criminal charges as well. After hanging up, I drove home through Riverside's quiet January streets, my mind calculating the next phase of strategy. The financial fraud gave me leverage I hadn't expected. Criminal exposure that could send Sophia to prison if she chose to challenge the will. But something still bothered me about those suspicious device logins. If she'd been accessing my accounts electronically, what else might she have been monitoring Richard? When we get to my house, I need to check something on my home computer. This fraud investigation might be more complicated than we realized. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place with mathematical precision, revealing a pattern of deception far more sophisticated than a simple wine-throwing tantrum. That evening, after Richard had left to process the day's shocking revelations, I sat in my home office staring at suspicious email notifications, login alerts from locations I'd never visited. At times I'd been asleep. The financial fraud was just the beginning. Someone had been systematically monitoring my digital life. I called Jordan Patel, the IT security specialist Benjamin had recommended for exactly these situations. Jordan, this is Kenneth Harris. Benjamin Cole gave me your number. I need someone to examine my home network immediately. What type of security concerns are you experiencing? Mr. Harris, unauthorized access to my financial accounts, suspicious login activity, and possibly more. I glanced at the old iPad sitting on my guest room desk, the device I'd barely used since purchasing it 4 years ago. Can you come tomorrow morning? Absolutely. Bring all your devices, and don't touch anything until I arrive. Jordan proved to be a methodical professional in his 30s, arriving with a briefcase full of diagnostic equipment. Within an hour, his laptop displayed a network map showing every device connected to my home Wi-Fi, including several I didn't recognize. Mr. Harris, someone has been systematically accessing your network from multiple devices over the past 3 years. Jordan pointed to his screen, highlighting unauthorized connections. They've logged into your banking apps, email accounts, and even your medical records portal. From where, let me trace the device signatures. His fingers flew across the keyboard. This is interesting. Most of the access is coming from a device physically located in your house. My blood chilled. Show me. Jordan led me to the guest room, straight to the iPad I'd forgotten about. He powered it on, revealing a screen filled with my personal applications. Banking, email, insurance, investment accounts. All logged in, all accessible, all monitored. Someone configured this device to mirror your accounts and maintain constant access. Jordan scrolled through the activity logs. They've been watching your financial activity, reading your emails, even monitoring your medical appointments. This iPad has been in my guest room for 4 years. Sophia always stayed here when she visited. Then she's had complete surveillance capability over your private life. Jordan began taking screenshots of the evidence. But there's more. Look at this. He opened the messaging app, revealing a conversation thread between Sophia and Daniel that made my chest tighten with betrayal and fury. Sophia still waiting for the old man to kick the bucket. How much longer? Daniel, he's 72 with diabetes. Can't be much longer. Sophia, I've been monitoring his accounts. Still spending money like he'll live forever. Daniel, at least we know exactly what we'll inherit when the time comes. Sophia, if he doesn't change his will first. That's why I need to stay in his good graces. Jordan watched my face as I read their casual discussion of my mortality. There are dozens more messages like this spanning 3 years. Should I document everything? Yes. Screenshot every message, every login, every unauthorized access. My voice sounded strangely calm. Even to my own ears, I want a complete digital forensics report. For the next 4 hours, Jordan systematically documented the scope of Sophia's surveillance. Banking transactions monitored in real time, emails read before I saw them, medical records accessed to track my health status. Even my lawyer consultations with Benjamin had been observed through my calendar app. She knows about your will changes, Jordan noted. Reviewing recent activity, your appointment confirmations with Benjamin Cole were all accessed from this device. Then she's preparing for a legal challenge. I sat heavily in my desk chair, processing the implications. She's been playing a much longer game than I realized. Jordan finished compiling his evidence report. Over 200 screenshots, access logs, and digital fingerprints proving systematic invasion of privacy. Mr. Harris, this is criminal stalking and identity theft. You need to press charges. I gathered the printed evidence into my growing folder of documentation. But first, I need to create something that will protect my intentions if she tries to challenge them legally. A video will... Exactly. If Sophia is watching my digital activity, she'll see me creating it. Let her know that I'm completely aware of her deception. That evening, I set up my laptop camera and recorded a detailed video explanation of my decision to disinherit Sophia completely. I spoke directly to the lens, methodically presenting each piece of evidence: the wine-throwing assault, the forged financial documents, the surveillance, the callous messages about waiting for my death. If someone is watching this video, it means Sophia has challenged my will posthumously. I concluded, every decision I've made has been deliberate, documented, and legally sound. She has shown her true character repeatedly, and I've responded accordingly. After uploading the video to secure cloud storage and sending copies to Benjamin, I called Jordan back to implement comprehensive digital security measures. From now on, all my devices require 2-factor authentication, encrypted communications, and regular security audits. I instructed, I want my digital life completely protected from further surveillance. As Jordan finished securing my network, I felt the satisfaction of closing another avenue of Sophia's deception. She'd been watching me for years, waiting for me to die naturally while systematically stealing from me financially. Now she would discover that her surveillance had provided me with the evidence needed to ensure she received exactly what she deserved. Nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from Benjamin. Restraining order paperwork ready. Can you meet at courthouse Thursday morning? Perfect timing. The legal protection phase could begin. February afternoon sunlight streamed through my study window as I sorted through thank you letters from people who'd attended my elder abuse prevention talks. The community response had been overwhelming. Dozens of seniors sharing their own stories, requesting guidance, expressing gratitude for my advocacy work. Car doors slammed outside with unusual violence. Through the window, I watched Sophia emerge from her SUV, her face twisted with desperate fury. She yanked something from her trunk, a handmade posterboard sign crudely lettered in red marker. My phone was already in my hand recording as she positioned herself on the sidewalk directly in front of my house. The sign read, "My father betrayed his family. People, look!" Sophia's voice cracked as she shouted toward neighboring houses. This man cut off his own grandchildren from their inheritance. Kenneth Harris is a heartless father. Curtains moved in windows. Front doors opened cautiously. Mrs. Thompson appeared on her porch, phone already recording. Other neighbors emerged, drawn by the commotion, but maintaining careful distance. I remained inside, methodically filming through the window while dialing the police. This is Kenneth Harris at 247 Elm Street. My daughter is violating her restraining order by approaching my property. Officers are en route, Mr. Harris. Stay inside and document everything. Sophia paced the sidewalk like a caged animal, holding her sign high for maximum visibility. He has $750,000, and he won't give his grandchildren a penny. What kind of grandfather abandons innocent children? Sophia Harris, Mrs. Thompson called from her porch. We read about you in the newspaper. The financial fraud charges. Lies. Sophia whirled toward her. He's manipulating the media. I made one mistake at Christmas and now he's destroyed our whole family. More neighbors gathered. Smartphones capturing everything. The Thompsons' teenage son live-streamed on social media. By now, dozens of people were witnessing Sophia's public meltdown in real time. 2 Riverside police cruisers arrived with lights flashing, but no sirens. A measured response that suggested they dealt with domestic situations before. Officers approached Sophia with professional calm while I met them at my front door with a copy of the restraining order. Here's the legal documentation, I told Officer Ramirez, handing him the paperwork. She's prohibited from approaching within 300 yards. Ma'am, you need to step away from this property immediately. Officer Ramirez called to Sophia. This is my father, she screamed, brandishing her sign like a weapon. I have a right to see my own father. Actually, you don't. Officer Ramirez approached her steadily. You're in violation of a legal restraining order. Put the sign down and place your hands behind your back. This is insane. Dad, stop this madness. I'm your daughter. I stepped onto my front porch, maintaining the safe distance required by law, and met her eyes directly. My daughter died that night. She threw wine in my face. You're just someone who happens to share my DNA. The handcuffs clicked shut around Sophia's wrists. Her sign fell to the pavement, crumpled and forgotten. As officers guided her toward the patrol car, she twisted around for one final appeal. Dad, please think about Olivia and Ethan. They love their grandfather. Olivia and Ethan will have education funds when they turn 25, I replied calmly, if they learn to show respect and gratitude, qualities their mother never possessed. The police car pulled away, carrying Sophia toward processing and booking. Neighbors began dispersing, but several approached me with expressions of support rather than curiosity. "Kenneth, we saw your interview in the Herald," Mrs. Thompson said, walking up my driveway. "That poor woman doesn't realize how much damage she's done to her own case. It's sad." "Really?" I replied, watching the patrol car disappear around the corner. But some people never learn that actions have consequences. As the crowd dispersed, I returned to my study and reviewed the phone footage I'd captured. 42 minutes of Sophia violating her restraining order, making public accusations, and demonstrating exactly the kind of unstable behavior that had led to her legal troubles in the first place. Benjamin would be very interested in this latest evidence. The court date was approaching, and Sophia had just provided the final piece of documentation needed to ensure my victory was complete and permanent. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Dad, they're saying I'll face criminal charges now. Can we please talk before this gets worse?" Too late for that conversation. Far too late. 1 week after Sophia's arrest, I sat across from Benjamin in his downtown Los Angeles office, watching him arrange the most comprehensive legal evidence package I'd ever seen. Documents filled 3 bankers' boxes: financial fraud proof, digital surveillance records, restraining order violation videos, and witness statements from neighbors, bank officials, and IT specialists. "Kenneth, in 32 years of family law, I've never seen a case this thoroughly documented," Benjamin observed, spreading key exhibits across his conference table. "Your engineering background shows in every detail. Methodical preparation prevents poor performance," I replied, studying the evidence array. "When do we present this to the judge?" "Both hearings are scheduled for next week. The criminal case for restraining order violation and the civil challenge to your will. Judge Ramirez will review everything comprehensively." The courthouse corridors buzzed with activity as we arrived for the combined hearings. Benjamin wheeled 2 suitcases of evidence while I carried my video testimony equipment. Local media had gathered, attracted by the elder abuse angle that had made my story regionally significant. Inside the courtroom, Sophia sat beside her court-appointed attorney, looking diminished and desperate. She avoided eye contact, staring instead at the table where her lawyer shuffled through a pitifully thin file of defensive arguments. "Your Honor," Benjamin began his presentation, "we have systematic evidence of elder abuse spanning multiple years, escalating from emotional manipulation to financial fraud to invasion of privacy." Judge Ramirez, a stern woman in her 60s, examined the first exhibit, enlarged photographs of forged signatures alongside my authentic ones. "The handwriting analysis is quite clear. These signatures don't match." "Correct, Your Honor. Bank security footage shows the defendant obtaining credit using fraudulent documents, resulting in $55,000 in unauthorized debt against my client's assets. The digital evidence proved even more damaging." Jordan Patel testified via video link, explaining how Sophia had maintained systematic surveillance of my private accounts, email, and medical records for over 3 years. She accessed his banking applications daily, Jordan reported, his technical expertise lending credibility to every statement. "We recovered private messages where she discussed waiting for his natural death while monitoring his financial activity. Those messages displayed on the courtroom's large screen created visible discomfort among observers. Sophia's casual discussion of my mortality, her impatience with my continued health, her cynical calculations about inheritance timing, all preserved in damning detail. Your Honor, Sophia's lawyer attempted damage control. My client was grieving her mother's death, and under extreme financial stress. Financial stress caused by systematic fraud against her own father, Benjamin interrupted smoothly. Stress she created through her own criminal behavior. Richard testified about our 50-year friendship, describing my character transformation from grieving widower to confident advocate. His emotional testimony about witnessing the wine-throwing incident provided powerful context for my subsequent decisions. Kenneth became a different man after that Christmas Eve, Richard explained. Not bitter, but determined, focused on protecting himself and helping other elderly people facing similar manipulation. The final piece of evidence was my video will explanation, recorded in Benjamin's office with professional lighting and sound. Judge Ramirez watched intently as I methodically explained each decision, referenced specific incidents, and demonstrated my complete mental competence. If someone is viewing this recording, it means my daughter has challenged my will posthumously. My recorded voice stated calmly, "Every decision documented here was made deliberately with legal counsel and based on substantial evidence of her systematic abuse and financial exploitation." Sophia's lawyer made one final attempt. "Your Honor, families have conflicts. This seems like an extreme response to a single evening of emotional outburst." "Counselor," Judge Ramirez interrupted sharply, "the evidence shows systematic financial fraud, privacy invasion, and ongoing manipulations spanning years. This is not a family conflict. This is elder abuse." The verdicts came swiftly. Criminal conviction for restraining order violation resulting in community service and extended protection orders. Complete validation of my new will with all challenges dismissed. Legal fees awarded to my side, further devastating Sophia's financial position. Outside the courthouse, media representatives requested statements about my victory and its implications for elder abuse prevention. "Justice has prevailed," I told the cameras, standing confidently beside Benjamin on the courthouse steps. "My grandchildren will receive educational support when they turn 25, but only if they demonstrate the respect and gratitude their mother never learned. Real family is built on love and respect, not genetic obligation." As I drove home through Riverside's familiar streets, I felt something I hadn't experienced in over a year. Complete peace. The methodical campaign that began with documenting wine stains had culminated in total victory, legal validation, and community support. Christmas was 3 weeks away. Time to plan a celebration worthy of my new chosen family. Christmas Eve morning 2024. Exactly 1 year since Sophia threw wine in my face. I stood in the same kitchen preparing Christmas dinner with genuine joy instead of desperate hope. The guest list had changed dramatically. Richard and his new girlfriend Laura, Jordan Patel with his wife Lisa and 8-year-old son Noah, Aunt Patricia, the Thompson neighbors, and Detective Sullivan, who'd become a friend during the fraud investigation. I set the dining room table with care, placing a manila envelope at each person's place setting. Inside each envelope, a copy of my final will explained in simple terms, showing how respect and loyalty had earned them shares in my estate. Uncle Kenneth Noah burst through the front door ahead of his parents, his energy filling the house with the sound I'd missed most, children's laughter without fear or tension. "Noah, my engineer in training," I replied, kneeling to his level. "Did you bring the blueprint we discussed?" He proudly displayed a crayon drawing of a rocket ship, complete with detailed specifications only an 8-year-old could imagine. "This is the engine that runs on Christmas cookies. See brilliant design. We'll build a prototype after dinner." As guests arrived, the house transformed into something Elizabeth would have loved. A home filled with people who chose to be here, who valued relationships over inheritance expectations. Richard carved the turkey while Laura arranged flowers. Lisa helped with side dishes, while Jordan tested the wine I'd selected with actual expertise instead of marketing pretense. At 7, we gathered around the same table where my family had imploded 12 months earlier. The contrast felt profound, but not forced. Genuine happiness replacing desperate wishful thinking. "Before we eat," I announced, standing at the head of the table, "I want to explain these envelopes. Last Christmas, I learned that DNA doesn't create family, love, respect, and mutual support. That's what makes people family." Noah opened his envelope first, reading aloud with 8-year-old determination. "Noah Patel will receive Uncle Kenneth's engineering books and workshop tools when he turns 18. If he continues being curious and kind." Laughter rippled around the table as others discovered their bequests. Richard inheriting the house and primary estate management. Jordan receiving technology assets and educational funds for Noah. The Thompsons getting Elizabeth's garden and greenhouse. Aunt Patricia receiving family photographs and heirlooms. "This is beautiful." "Kenneth," Laura whispered, studying her document. "You've created family through choice rather than genetics. Elizabeth always said families grow through love. Not just biology," I replied, raising my wine glass in the same spot where Sophia's assault had begun this journey. "To real family. The people who choose to love us for who we are, not what we can provide." 8 glasses rose in unanimous toast. Noah clinked his apple juice against my wine with ceremonial seriousness. During dinner, conversation flowed naturally between updates on the elder abuse support group I'd started, Noah's school projects, Richard and Laura's travel plans, and Jordan's latest security consulting success. No one mentioned Sophia or the legal battles. That chapter had closed completely. After dessert, while Lisa and Laura organized leftover distribution, and Richard helped Noah design rocket modifications, I stepped outside into the crisp December night. Stars shone clearly above Riverside, and Christmas lights twinkled in neighbors' windows like earthbound constellations. The transformation felt complete, but not finished, an ending that was simultaneously a beginning. 1 year ago, wine had dried on my shirt while I planned methodical revenge. Tonight, laughter echoed from my dining room, while people I truly loved celebrated together. Elizabeth's presence felt strong in the winter air, not as memory, but as approval. I'd learned her most important lesson. Real families are built through daily choices to love, respect, and support each other. Blood might provide the starting point, but character determines the destination. Noah's voice called from inside. "Uncle Kenneth, come see our rocket. It's got cookie fuel and everything." I smiled up at the stars one final time, then returned to my house, my home, where my chosen family waited with engineering blueprints drawn in crayon and hearts full of the only inheritance that truly mattered. Love freely given and gratefully received. The grandfather clock chimed 8, marking not an ending, but a new beginning, filled with possibilities as endless as Noah's imagination, and as solid as the friendship that had sustained me through the darkest year of my life. Real family had found me at last. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.